Let's look at a really good lead theory called leader-member exchange, or LMX. Now this has kind of a strange title, and so let me explain it. So leader, that's the person leading. That might be a manager, it might be a team leader, it might be the head of a company, it might be a politician, might be a pastor, somebody who's trying to influence somebody towards some goals. The member is the person being led, and we'll see why they're called members, but you can think of employee or follower or something like that. And we're talking about the exchange, the interaction between the leader and the follower. That's what we're especially looking at in this theory. And this is often called LMX for short. And it is a really good theory, especially if you're doing research and are collecting data, because it's a very strong theory when we look at the empirical data. Now, the leader-member exchange theory was based on the observation that leaders don't treat all members the same. Some members they treat really well, others they treat less well, some they're close to, some they're not close to. And so we talk about two types of members, even though it's really a continuous spectrum. There's in-group members, and those are people that have a good relationship with the leader. There's mutual trust, lots of communication, mutual respect, and they're committed to each other. Those are called the in-group members, kind of like the leader's friends. Then there's the out-group members, and those are the people that aren't very close to the leader. They have a bad or weak relationship with the leader. So that's why it's called leader-member exchange, because we're talking about in-group members and out-group members. But most people are somewhere in between, and we need to look at it as a normally distributed spectrum. Now, it turns out that there's some big differences between in-group and out-group members, between people that have a good relationship with the supervisor and those who don't have a good relationship with the supervisor. The in-group members receive more information from leaders. They're kind of like the leaders will share with them more information and more quickly. They have a greater influence on the leaders. If the in-group members want something, they're more likely to receive it than somebody who's part of the out-group. And they receive more confidence and concern from the leader. The leader trusts them more. They are, and it turns out when we look at their behavior, it turns out the in-group members are more dependable, they're more engaged, they're more communicative, they're just pouring themselves into work more than out-group members are. So what does leader-member exchange theory basically say? What are the key ideas? Well, the first key idea is that high-quality leader-member exchanges, or we call high LMX, or good relationships between an employee and a supervisor, result in positive outcome. There's less employee turnover, the employees perform better, there's a greater likelihood that the employee will be promoted, the employee has greater organizational commitment, and they get more attention and support from the leader. And that's true for the ones that are likable. It's also true for the ones that aren't likable. If they enter into that good relationship with the boss, things are just going to go a lot better. And this theory is strongly supported by the data, that it really, the quality of the relationship makes a huge difference. Now, this also means that leaders should nurture high-quality exchanges, high-quality relationships with all employees, not just the ones that are easy to get along with. They shouldn't just concentrate on the employees that they like or who they don't like and ignore them, or the employees that are similar to them. Leaders need to focus on ways to build trust and respect so that all employees become part of the leader's in-group. So it's not a question of finding, oh, here's the good employees, here's the bad employees, I'm going to be close with the good employees. Leader-member exchange says that a good leader is going to try to have good relationships with all employees and get them in their in-group, get them in their trusted circle. And this is interesting Because from a Christian perspective, this is really similar to Jesus' teaching about the importance of loving other people. He said it's real easy to love the people that are nice and kind and who do good to you, but what really counts is to love your enemy and seek to do good to them. And so it's the same thing in leader-member exchange. A good leader is going to try to do good and develop a healthy relationship with everyone that he or she is trying to lead. Now, as I mentioned, this can be used in research, like perhaps for your thesis, if you're doing a master's thesis on leadership or something. And typically what we use is what's known as the LMX scale. It's just 7 short items that ask about the quality that an employee has with his or her leader. So one of the questions is, do you know where you stand with your leader? Do you usually know how satisfied your leader is with what you do? And the responses go from rarely to very often, and the person chooses something on that 1 to 7 scale, or we could use a 1 to 5 scale. How well does your leader understand your job problems and needs? So that's a measure of the quality of the relationship, going from not a bit to a great deal. How well does your leader recognize your potential? So that's like knowing the person and knowing the person's strengths. What are the chances that your leader would use his or her power to help you solve problems in your work? Is your leader someone who's helpful and willing to help you personally? What are the chances that he or she would bail you out at his or her expense? Would your leader be willing to sacrifice something for your benefit to help you out? That's a measure of the quality of the relationship. Another item is, I have enough confidence in my leader that I would defend and justify his or her decision if he or she were not present to do so. So this measures your trust in your leader. Would you help him out and defend his decision even when he or she is not present? How would you characterize your working relationship with your leader? And the choices go from very ineffective to very effective. So these things all measure the quality of relationship, also known as LMX.